Welcome back, Gruber Morning Show. I'm Pete Gruber.
And I'm Zane Courtney.
And we're here streaming on a number of platforms. We're going to cover a lot of topics this morning. We've got TikTok here on our right. And for those of you curious about the image that we selected today.
Very nice house.
This is a house in Paradise Valley, Arizona, one of the suburbs of Phoenix. And again, it's an infrared shot. And it just amazes me what you can do when you're expanding the visual content in a photograph. Clouds, shrubbery, things just seem to take on a whole different eerie, context once you shoot an infrared. But that's what's sitting behind us, and we do this on every show. By the way, we have an image that I've collected over the years, decades of doing photography. And we throw one up and talk about it. Sometimes we'll even do two, like last time. I think we popped up two. Got some people coming in, streaming in.
Right on. This is from Instagram. Good morning, Nadal. Nadal HMM. Hi, good morning. No hate, only love on TikTok wants to know, what is this podcast about? It's 2023. We've got whole new people that are watching.
Mm-hmm. Alternative energy, folks. It is not only electric cars, but what are we doing to move this planet to sustainable energy use? And anything focused on that is what we talk about, what we present, and our audience asks questions about. We also, being with Gruber Motor Company, which repairs EVs, mostly Teslas these days, we're able to provide a lot of insights. What happens in a service center? What is evolving with the Tesla vehicles? Where had they gone from the first Tesla, the Roadster, or even back further than that, the Mule, which is now at the Peterson Museum, and the T0, to where they are today, and what the progression is. We get to look under the hood, and we get to see what's going on inside the vehicles, and we share that with you guys. And oftentimes, auto shops watch our podcast because there are hints and tips that are revealed in our podcast.
And if you want to get them all, be sure to check out some of our earlier episodes. We've been going back through, we've been adding chapters, thumbnails, all the good stuff, thanks to our wonderful team in the back here. So be sure to check all of that out. That's on Gruber Motor Company on YouTube and Gruber Motor Shorts, where you can see even more of that behind the scenes in the service area, and all of our other platforms.
Looks like YouTube Exploration chimed in. He loves shooting in infrared. And I've got two different cameras that are converted. I forget the nanometer range now because it's been a decade or so since I played with all of this stuff. But you shoot in one and the color's gone. You shoot in the other and you have to do color swapping, which really gets interesting. And we'll throw up more of those images for you guys.
But it's something that you import into Photoshop and just say, hey, layer these two.
Exactly. With nice. Combined with Photoshop, you can work miracles with your images.
It is incredible. I mean, you can see the texturing on between the plants and the building itself.
Yeah.
It feels different.
There's one shot I have, which is up on the Tapatio Cliffs looking south about 20 miles, and it's almost as if you can see every single tree and shrub, the detail. YouTube, Steve Rose, greetings from Boulder City, Nevada.
Boulder City, Nevada. I know about that from the movie La La Land. That sounds mentioned.
And then TikTok, Mike,
movies.
British Racing Green Team Roadster.
Hey!
You know, it's a rare color, Mike, and we actually currently have 3 of them in our service center. So it's a dark green color for those of you not familiar, and it also goes by the acronym BRG.
Gorgeous.
I'm sorry, I was going to cover a question from the last podcast that we didn't get to. It was from Dale Sparks. He says, new to your channel, question for EV haters, not me. How many Tesla battery packs have needed replacement in the past 10 years? First of all, we have to, again, interject that as a service center, we see all the aberrations. We see the broke stuff. We don't see the stuff that's working. So for us, it's difficult to establish a comparative analysis or a ratio because we see everything broken. It's kind of like hospital. They see only sick people, right?
Right.
But in terms of the quantity that we have worked on, the Tesla Roadster has a unique problem in that if you don't charge it for a couple of months, it gets bricked and the battery will no longer accept the charge. Just had one yesterday. customer of ours in Newport Beach, went to Wales for 2 months, came back and found that his Roadster was dead. Car now needs to come here for recovery. If we can get to the Roadsters after they're bricked within 3 to 6 months of dying, we're able to bring them back to life. No fuss, no muss. It's a fairly simple process for us. However, if it's longer than that, then some damage occurs inside the 18650 cell collections, or the bricks as they call them. There's 69 cells in a brick. Then it needs to go to Tesla for an entire pack replacement. And thankfully, Tesla is still supporting the Roadster 15 years later.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, a lot of manufacturers would just, wipe their hands and say, okay, we're done. You need to upgrade. We're not supporting it anymore. We don't have parts. It's too difficult for us to maintain it, But Tesla is hanging in there and continuing to support the Roadster. So there is an option if it's been bricked longer than a half a year. And in terms of quantity, we've recovered just under 100 Roadsters since we've been doing this in 2014. And we've also sent a few to the local service centers here for battery pack swaps. So that partnership with Tesla is really beginning to work out well for us and our customers.
One other thing as well, Pete.
Yeah.
We also, not only do we see all the broken stuff, we see all of the only exclusively out of warranty stuff.
Yes.
So who knows how many battery packs are replaced by Tesla under warranty, but that's the purpose of the warranty, and they honor that, obviously, right?
Good point. Yes. Yeah. We had a input from Ronaldo Quintos, and he says, "I'm a mechanic of the future." Well, that's exciting because we have the auto shop of the future here, and I feel that anybody working on EVs definitely is doing some futuristic work at this point. He talks about the challenges of repairing electric vehicles, and he said he has an electronics background, so for him it's not that hard to dive in and do component level type work, troubleshooting. But he does admit that in order to do that type of work, you're not going to be able to take your average mechanic at the auto shop and convert them overnight to be competent in doing component level repairs in electronics.
Right.
It requires an engineering degree, it requires an electronic technician background. And as he says, they're the ones more skilled at pinpointing bad components or problems in a circuit. He actually does go into battery packs as well, finds the components, the microchips, the capacitors, the bad solder connections.
All right, let's go, Ronaldo.
So yes, definitely a mechanic of the future.
And we need more of them.
Another good question that came in from Louis Sarti. He says, great videos, gents. In regards to the Model S, when the battery pack is repaired by a service center, as Gruber does, do I lose lifetime free charging I currently have? In other words,
does that void your warranty?
Yeah, long-term warranties or features or benefits like the lifetime charging.
That's a good question.
At this point in time, I can safely say that Tesla does not change any of these benefits that come with the vehicle. They could at any point in time do that, but graciously they have allowed independents to work on vehicles and continue to provide services like free supercharging.
They've definitely been well-loving their client base. I mean, they're still, like you said, 15 years of service for the Roadsters. I mean, that's still something really, really cool.
So you will not lose lifetime free charging if you have an independent work on your vehicle. They used to draw the line with salvage vehicles. You buy a salvage car in an auction. Tesla just didn't feel that that car was safe by the time it got done being fixed by a backyard mechanic who didn't have their test procedures, didn't have their tools, didn't have the firmware necessary.
It's Joe Schmo and a rubber tire for insulation, and he's going to get that thing open and see what's wrong with it.
And based on the fact you got 400 volts floating around in that car, they just didn't feel comfortable allowing salvage cars into their service centers. And they also removed lifetime supercharging because of the concern there being you've got a salvage car that wasn't properly put back together and the thing catches fire along with a whole bunch of other cars that are charging. So again, it is their prerogative. They're giving you free fuel. They get to call the shots.
Hey. For what they're doing right now, I'd say it's a pretty great deal. Good for them for being able to still provide as much service as they do, I'd say. There's a note on that real quick from Exploration on YouTube. What do you guys think about the quality of the Tesla that just fell 250 feet and they all lived? So I guess this must be a drop test.
You know, I was gonna try to avoid that topic.
Oh, really?
Although it's all over the news, but the latest scuttlebutt is that there was an intentional attempt to kill the family.
Oh.
And there's not much information yet what leads witnesses and the authorities to come up with that conclusion. But what is remarkable is this thing literally fell over 250 feet off a cliff, landed on a bunch of rocks, partially in the water. It looks like it's been ripped apart, and 4 people survived.
Wow.
2 children and 2 adults.
Incredible.
With, you know, not life-threatening injuries. Of course, it immediately comes to mind how, this was on US 1 on the coast in California, right? Mm-hmm. There was no guardrail at that point. Well, you would think that, you know, with a 250-foot drop, that, the state of California might have some sort of, you know, protection.
Yeah, in other places, maybe not, but California, especially on the coast there, you would, yeah, that's wild.
No.
But up until recently, I mean, the Model X has been rated the safest car in production.
Yeah.
And now it's been overtaken by the Rivian, the R1T.
You know, I can safely say, though, that I can't imagine that Tesla designed this vehicle to be able to sustain a 250-foot drop into rocks and survive. I think this was a miracle. We should probably just consider it as that, and there's probably no way that an auto manufacturer could put enough protection unless they build a tank fundamentally. Or a
Toyota Hilux.
Right.
If you can drop that car off of a building, that doesn't necessarily mean you should be in it.
Everybody is grateful that everyone survived, and we'll have to watch the stories as they unfold as to what the intent or the circumstances around this accident were.
Did you have there was a couple other comments that we got from our last video. Do you want to go ahead and hit those?
Yeah, there are. From Tigran Onayan, and this was in response to one of our videos. Do you fiscally remove the bad cells and put a good one in instead? He was watching the our repair, the Tesla Model S battery repair video. Or just disconnect the cell, he says, and leave it in the pack. That's precisely what we do. The reason that you can't remove a 18650 cell from either the Model X, the Model S, or the Roadster is that they are in a potting compound, and there's a cooling jacket that touches every cell. So even though you could conceivably drill that out, press it out, you would most likely damage the cooling jacket, but the ultimate thing is it's completely unnecessary, because you've got 7,100 cells in a Model S 85 kW pack. If you snip one of those out of circuit, the car never realizes one cell out of that many went MIA, or even 10, 15, or 20 cells went MIA.
Wow.
So the most sensible way to handle that type of repair is to just simply snip the fusible link wire, and there's some very fine wires, fusible links basically on both sides of the cell, and you just simply cut one of them, and that cell is no longer affecting the rest of the cells by dragging them down, since it's resistive.
There's a comment that we just got that relates to that from YouTube Shorts from Tatters. Aren't there like several thousand 1860? It's 7,000.
There's 6,831 in a Roadster, 7,104 in an 85 kW pack. There are fewer in the 40 and the 60 kW packs. So he's saying when I buy them, they're about $7 a piece. I know wholesale brings the price down, but I mean, surely they're very expensive. You know, this is one of the problems, by the way, Tatters, that we run into when a company like ours wants to build a Tesla Roadster battery pack. In other words, offer an alternative to Tesla, which is still making that battery pack. We've run the numbers, we've done the spreadsheets. We being people in the independent space, don't have the scale of economies. We're not getting end column pricing from the vendors for these cells. Tesla, of course, buy these by the hundreds of millions every month. It's easy for them to get an aggressive price, much better than $7 a piece. I think the last time we checked, and it's been a couple of years, we were down around the $3 to $4 per cell range. Well, you take that times 6,831, and suddenly you're getting close to the $30,000 that they're charging for that battery pack. So that's the problem that you run into. But the future, of course, will be different. I'm not sure that we're going to, that the battery technology will continue to evolve into multi-cell design. And as these other technologies begin to take hold, that whole concept may go away completely.
Yeah, I mean, with the introduction of so many new batteries, we've had something like wood batteries being in production alongside all the cool fusion stuff that we like to talk about. You know, that's going to be really nice for the longevity of a lot of these cells where, hey, we could probably see that trickle down into the independent space kind of once Tesla decides to do something else, or even LG Chem, other guys like that. And someone else actually made a great comment about that. Oh, well, we got a quick one from LinkedIn from Juan Carlos Moratoya. Hi from Guatemala.
Welcome.
Good to see you on LinkedIn.
Welcome, Juan.
Tatters followed up on YouTube Shorts. You'd think a single battery out of 7100 wouldn't basically disable a vehicle, as in the manufacturer would find a way to overcome such a failure without the need to manually disable that particular cell. Yeah, that's a good point. You would think that they would have already...
Here's the reason why, though. A lithium-ion cell that goes resistive is a time bomb. If you continue to charge that cell at the same level as the good cells, it will ignite. Once it ignites its neighbors. By that time, the car's on fire. And then, like we found out with our buildings, not only is it that car on fire, but suddenly you have other cars that it's migrating to. So what Tesla does, and the other EV manufacturers, they carefully monitor the bricks or the collection of cells, and they will only allow a charge to the lowest brick in that pack. It's a safety issue. So that's why 1 out of 7,000 cells can kill the car. And it's almost tragic because when you think about it, that one $3 to $7 cell actually killed that Model S, and then made the customer or created an expense around $5,000 to $7,000 to go in, find that cell, isolate it, and neutralize it.
Man,
it's an interesting technology.
A $5 problem becomes a $5,000 problem very quickly.
Yeah.
In this case, Juan Carlos from Guatemala wants to know, with a high volt battery pack internal isolation with fault code BMS F123, the internal cells voltage imbalance is less than 6
millivolts, and the battery is 80% state of charge. So it sounds like Juan is fixing these cars. I don't know quite how to answer that question, although the BMS faults, you know, we have a long list of those that we work with over at the service center. And that's typically what starts getting thrown when you have a bad battery that Tesla deems as needing to be replaced, and companies like us go in and repair. All right. Now, here's an interesting one. This was a question posed on Quora. If we develop self-driving and driverless cars, will we still need headlights? So he paints a picture. He says, it's 4:20 a.m. on a foggy morning. Dark, of course. Roads are kind of icy and temperatures are around 32 degrees Fahrenheit. It's pitch black because it just so happens to be the day of the new moon when no moon is visible. Your car is driving down the road at a speed of 55 miles an hour. Would you want to see where your car is going, or would you trust that your car can drive you through the black of night?
Well, if it's a Tesla that's all cameras, even though they're supposedly bringing radar back, that's some news.
Well, he's talking about the human element, and I don't think our generation is prepared for trust at this level in technology. So it may be a generation or two before there's enough trust in, you know, the kind of technology we're going to have by then to completely relinquish any control. Now, here's another picture he paints. He says, could you imagine traveling down a 2-lane highway at night, and all of a sudden a car appears out of the dark and passes you at 60 miles an hour without any headlights, without any warning, right?
Oh, no.
No, I don't think that our generation is prepared for this kind of technology.
Arguably, maybe no generation.
Well, at some point, they're not going to have a choice, right?
Not going to have a choice,
That's
yes.
the ideal thing, when everybody just is not driving is going to be much
Yeah,
safer.
but even trains have headlights, and those things run on the same rails.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if I feel like there's just some things you can't replace, and I think having external lights on a moving object is just going to be fundamental to anything humans make. But, I mean, fair point. It's not like the human's doing anything. It's not like the human needs to see anything, but it depends, I guess, on whether the vehicle needs to see something, if the light actually helps with that or not, if we're going to continue to use radar. I mean, Tesla's already proved that visibility with cameras alone can actually be maybe not completely replaceable, but at least feasible for replacing most other self-driving technology.
You know, this whole disruption poses a host of additional questions. There's another one that I saw, which was, how well will driverless cars handle casual driving? Well, the answer that he gave was, you quite simply speak to the car. Search for restaurants in this area.
Which you can already do.
Which you can already do, exactly, yes. I think that technology has kind of overwhelmed us to where we're not fully aware of the extent of what's available now, you know, like talking to your car. I mean, when I get home at night, I talk to Alexa, and I try to fool her into, you know, like asking for something and then making up a word. And of course, she'll find the closest word, and we always have a chuckle about that, you know. But, you know, speaking of Alexa, I think my question of the day is getting harder and harder because we're not getting the results we used to. They used to be simpler. No.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
You know what, though? I do want one more thing on this. I got to drive in it was a BMW what was it?
i3 or i8?
It might have been an i8. And there's some new pieces of technology in those things I just don't think humans need. They have this feature where you have to gesture toward the dashboard. So you don't actually touch it, you gesture for it to turn volume up and down and so on and so forth. It's the worst thing in the world. Because like if you're talking with your hands or if you're like moving around, all of a sudden your volume's going up and down and the whole thing is trying. It's the worst idea. I don't know who thought gesture controls in a car was a good idea, but
unintended
not for
gesture
me, that's
is
for
what
sure.
we're talking about.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. But they're so easy to do.
So one of the things I used to like to do, I have a P90D Ludicrous, and we get a lot of visitors, and this was back in the day when Tesla was still relatively new, you know, and the P90D Ludicrous had just come out, and at 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds was just insanely fast. So the visitors would come, and I would take them on a joyride down the street here, and invariably, even the guys with suits, quite serious, you know, very professional, would be stamping their feet and giggling like a schoolgirl after taking one of those ludicrous launches, right? But I would caution them. I would say, now watch this. I'm going to turn on the full self-driving, and the car would just be taking care of business. You get behind a car, it would slow down, keep some car lengths. You put the signal on, it would pass the car and all that. And I said, all of this is fine and hunky-dory. However, do you see that red light there? It can't see that, and it will kill you in a heartbeat if you're not aware that you need to take control whenever you get to traffic signals. So what this actually reminds me of is all the cars eventually are going to have to speak to each other. There's going to have to be a bidirectional communication, so that when you're driving in the middle of the night without headlights and you've got two cars 60 miles an hour opposite directions, they know what to do. They're aware of each other's presence, and you know they're able to see each other.
They're going to
and
be
to
more
avoid
like
each other.
worms. They don't have eyes. They talk to each other.
But the most important part is these cars are going to have to talk to the traffic signals, even simple dumb stop signs, you know. And that technology already exists. It's just that all of the technology has not yet been installed and deployed in the traffic signals in the various parts of the world.
Even right now with Tesla's self-driving, they do have the ability to see stop signs or stop lights and be able to gauge what to do in those situations. So that part even already exists.
Yep.
Super interesting stuff. Mark Schaefer on YouTube, or sorry, Schaffner on YouTube. Good morning, guys. Just want to see how much we can give up control when the car starts spinning after hitting a pitch of black ice, or hitting a patch of black ice. Oh, I agree. Black ice is the worst.
Yeah. You know, technology is so much more competent when it comes to that. I don't know, I've driven a lot of cars, and when you start spinning out of control, I mean, you're constantly thinking, what should I be doing next? And not a lot of people have expertise when that happens.
Right.
But you know, the technology definitely is superior. I mean, take a look at ABS brakes. It knows exactly when to pulse, when not to, and to help stop that car at an optimum level. Yeah, good point, Mark. Hey, we miss you, by the way. Mark was our fill-in for a couple of sessions, I think, podcasts.
I know. I get to keep his seat warm.
Yes, exactly.
Like, and vice versa.
So then we got a question from TikTok. Bill Wood. Bill's been
Bill.
with us before. Hello, Bill. He says, no blinkers, windshield wipers, or horns. That's right. Why would you need windshield wipers? The car doesn't need to see through the windshield.
And then also aside from the horn, they're also the only 3 things that require maintenance.
Yeah.
Or I guess both of those things require maintenance. Toey Gartner wants to know, so what do you do with a battery pack when the car's life is done? We kind of addressed this a little bit ago with I guess it's like, what happens if, say, it's completely bricked battery?
Well, we will be doing videos on these topics, like what do you do when, first of all, we don't know when a EV actually will be end of life. With an ICE vehicle, if you're living in the East Coast and your doors are rusted off and the engine is shot, it's pretty much a foregone conclusion, unless it's collectible, that that's going to the junkyard. With an EV, aluminum body with a drivetrain that can easily be replaced with limited moving parts, we don't know what the lifespan of these EVs is going to be yet. But when the battery needs to be replaced, where does it go? It's not going to go to a battery graveyard, it's going to a recycling center. And there are plenty of those popping up. We talk about this often. The CTO of Tesla, J.B. Strobel, he was a CTO for 14 years, started Redwood Materials a few years ago, and that's their goal in life, is to take and recycle EV lithium-ion batteries, or any type of batteries, laptop batteries, tool batteries, you name it.
Yeah, it's a company we're particularly excited about, since it'll help the whole supply chain with regards to being able to remanufacture and keep other batteries and materials in the system, so we can keep making new cars.
Mm-hmm. Here locally, we have an event that's coming up February 4th. For those of you that live in the Phoenix area, it is called the Concourse of the Hills. And it is a premier car show for high performance and collector cars. And you'll see some really cool iron. Can we throw that picture up of those 2 exotics that that are going to be at this event? We're going to be taking one of our Roadsters there. We have Roadster VIN number 5. This is the 5th Tesla ever built. It was built in the UK by Lotus and then shipped over to the United States. It's in our stable, and it will be at this event. Now, Fountain Hills, let me give you a little bit of background on what that's all about. There is a small town east of Scottsdale here in Arizona, and it is a community of suburban homes fundamentally, with a park in the middle of town, and there you can see a picture behind the cars. Oh. This used to be the world's tallest fountain. Ooh. And when I moved here in the 70s, it was quite a sight. The actual pump for this fountain was made in Switzerland, in Zurich, Switzerland. The Swiss tend to be good with this type of technology, you know. And it was commissioned and paid for by Robert P. McCullough, the same guy of McCullough chainsaw fame, that actually helped create a town west of us here, which is, help me here.
Founded by McCullough.
Yeah.
Gosh, west of us?
It'll come to me.
I don't even know that.
It's the place where the London Bridge is.
Oh, in Havasu.
Havasu City, right? Huh.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Same guy.
And
this is fascinating.
Now, this is a guy that was so forward-thinking, he decided, you know, the Brits are going to demolish the London Bridge, which, of course, was an icon, a landmark. He actually commissioned a company there to take it block and stone by stone, ship it over to the United States, and then put it back up in Lake Havasu City. and it's right downtown. It's a place well worth visiting, and of course they've now taken on the the Old English theme.
Oh, it's a whole center over there. It's really pretty, and it's hilarious to look at because you go there. I went there in the middle of summer, and it's the strangest feeling because it's all English architecture. You're walking the London Bridge, and it's like 300 degrees outside. It just doesn't feel right, but it also kind of feels amazing.
Right. But anyway, this car event is happening February 4th. It's free to the public, and you'll get to see some really exotic cars in a beautiful setting, and they usually have a couple 3,000 cars. It also is funding a nonprofit here locally, so that kind of makes you feel good, and I wish I had written this down, but we'll present it in the next one. Which nonprofit? It's like Children's Hospital or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And speaking of events, we do know that CES is going on right now in Las Vegas. Lots of new cars getting introduced and new technologies and so on and so forth. One of the biggest ones being the ID.7 from Volkswagen. They're making a sedan of all things. We thought that the sedan market was going to be gone because of the crossover market, but they seem pretty convinced that sedans still have a place, and they're going to keep making electric sedans, probably to compete specifically with the Model 3, which is the best-selling sedan in the whole world.
Very cool, very cool. I think Richard has a company for us that is coming out with a car, and we love the name, but what are your thoughts on this car and the company?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. Honda and Sony, of all companies, are partnering up to create an EV.
Yeah, checks
I'm going to
out.
throw this up here for you guys on Instagram.
Sony's been collaborating with car makers for a long time for audio systems.
Oh, yeah, what is
Everybody
this,
wants to
Richard?
jump on a bandwagon. Yeah, it's, nobody wants to be left out because they see the mass adoption taking place. It's got to be tough for them, I think
can
about
imagine.
All often, they
Oh,
could have
we're
been
all
at
waiting for the
forefront.
Apple car.
Yeah, and they're still fiddling with it.
Because they're probably in the same spot with as Sony, where they're trying to find a partner. Because I don't know if they'll ever internally get to the point of making a car, but they'll probably collaborate with somebody. Maybe not even a full automaker. Maybe it'll be just a wheel distributor.
So, while Richard's bringing
So-
this up, we've got
Yeah.
a TikTok comment from Edgar, and I'm going to try speaking Spanish for a moment here. He says, "Ay, güey, quemo mucho el sol."
Quema mucho el sol.
And
Yes, it
he
does.
translates down below, he says, "The sun burns too much, probably about the sunglasses."
That's correct.
Yeah, and we are, we get a lot of feedback about the sunglasses. We were just looking at some of the old video comments.
No.
And what was it,
Gold.
like 30% of them were talking about sunglasses?
If not
Gold.
more. Our most
If not more.
recent viral TikTok with it's getting towards 1 million views. About 30 to 40%, I'd say, are all about the sunglasses.
Well, we do got to get you guys some sunglasses.
We do. I've been looking for
We
one.
have to shield your eyes.
And
No.
we keep giving our audience hints. If you want to see what we're seeing, you might want to put sunglasses on your end, and you may just begin to understand why we're wearing these. But we are still committed to doing a video with a huge reveal. Why are there always sunglasses involved in the Gruber videos? It's coming.
So I've got the Afeela pictures up here.
Here we go.
Cool.
So I don't know if Jesse's able to pull it up for the rest. But this car looks pretty nice. The interior definitely looks like it's inspired from or by the Model 3. It's got the yoke, definitely inspired from Tesla there. It was hysterical. When I saw this front, this definitely looks like a phone. Right? This looks like a piece of tech, not a car. Right? Just from the styling
It's
lines.
the single light bar headlight grill thing.
Yeah, that definitely plays into it. But
Weirdly reminds me of like a thicker Lucid.
it does. Take a look at the side. Definitely.
I see vintage Bentley on the side.
Oh yeah. Especially that tail end
yeah.
and
yeah.
the fender on the rear fender.
Big wheels.
Oh.
The name.
Afeela.
Yeah, there's some history there you were saying. We were looking at it and saying, oh, it's foreigners trying to get in the U.S. market, not understanding what resonates with us. Ford Lightning, Dodge Ram. I mean, that's the kind of thing that we like here, But anyway, what's this all about,
Yeah,
Richard?
so the quote that I have here is, Afeela expresses an interactive relationship where people feel mobility as an intelligent entity, and mobility feels people and society using sensing and network IT technologies.
Cute.
Well, if it sells cars, you know.
And
more
actually,
power to 'em.
if we could see it one more time, I noticed something. It's, if you look at the rearview mirrors, they're not mirrors. Those are cameras.
Ah,
And I'm
okay.
really glad that I've been really psyched about that. There's another company, I think it's Lucid, isn't it, that has cameras on the sides. Maybe it's not Lucid. I wish I could remember who it was off the top of my head. But they have cameras on what are mirrors currently.
Right.
And they actually project the image on the inside of the car in a much nicer spot, so that you don't have to glance all the way over to look at your what's behind you. It's just in the door there.
Yeah.
And it's a great spot for it. I really hope that we get to see more of that in cars like that. And it looks like Afeela feels the same way. So hey, they've got feeling right. So good for them.
Got some news items here for you guys. It turns out that Tesla celebrated its 100,000th registration in Norway.
Whoa!
That's a lot of cars for a country that small.
Good for them.
EVs.
That's like everyone in Norway.
Yeah. Now here's another interesting statistic. Tesla's Gigafactory in China, Shanghai, which is of course in the news, a lot of bad news, you know, the COVID shutdowns and all of that. And anyway, the latest is that they are now reportedly able to produce a Tesla in 40 seconds on average. I mean, that's almost
That's
like
fast.
blinking, you know, and suddenly a car pops out. So that has to be
They're just printing
a
them at this
record.
point.
Okay, let's make sure we're saying that they're cranking out a Model Y frame every 40 seconds, not a fully complete Tesla.
Oh, thank you,
That's true.
Jesse.
Yes,
Okay.
specifically, yeah, let's be clear.
All right.
Just the frame. Which, granted, that is, thanks to those Giga presses, yeah, they're literally printing those things out.
Okay, so it's not the
but not the
entire
whole
car.
car.
That-
Right.
Yeah, that makes more sense. Thank you, Jesse. Although that would have been a phenomenal. You know, by the
could
time
you
we get to
ima- hey,
robots,
maybe-
can you imagine
I
that?
was going to say,
Yeah.
we'll probably in the next few years, we'll probably see full car production.
Well, I
for
think
you.
it is still a pretty significant thing because I don't think
Oh, it's
anybody else
huge.
does that process to make frames. So I think that they're cranking it out real fast.
Oh, yeah. No, they're doing a great job.
And they say despite all of the challenges in 2022 that Tesla had in China at that Gigafactory, they were able to deliver 1.3 million cars in 2022.
It's incredible.
Definitely adoption rate.
You know, I wonder how many cars that get produced in China are actually in the U.S., just the way that they get distributed and things like that. I mean, because you've got a couple factories out here, but for all I know, I don't know if every single Tesla on the road in America is actually made in America. Kind of like how Toyotas are.
Right.
Mine was actually built in Japan and shipped over to it was Virginia back in 2002.
I think Bill's messing with us a bit. Bill Wood from TikTok, he said, he's talking about the Afeela. He said the real name for the car is a Honey. Honda and Sony.
Honey.
Could be, yeah.
Honey.
That probably would have been a better name
It's a
for
fun
it.
name. Maybe it's the Afeela Honey.
Yeah, yeah.
Or the Honey Afeela.
So Tesla was able to deliver in 2022, and this again is China, 40% growth over last year.
Hey.
And everybody was looking for that magic 50%, but didn't quite make it, it looks like. Randy LaRoque from TikTok, what's with the sunglasses, dudes? Well, have you ever seen the Blues Brother movies?
Something like that.
Yep, it's that vibe.
From Jim on TikTok, hey, from Arizona. Hey, come on over. Come say hi.
Oh, is it Jim?
Yeah.
I actually have an article about him here. We'll get to that
Jim
in a moment.
Gallardi.
Oh, Jim Gallardi. No, I thought it was Jim Stack.
Not just.
Well, hello, Jim, then. Welcome.
Hey, but
yes.
let's get both Jims in here. Why not?
Yeah.
Let's have a Jimboree. Oh, that'd be awesome.
According to Tesla, a stock analyst at Loop Ventures, it's a firm that's been following and reporting on Tesla for years, they say that the US EV maker will unveil its upcoming Model 2 in 2024.
What? It's happening?
Now, where they got this info is questionable. Sometimes these guys get internal memos. You know, there's one company that is notorious for that. They're able to siphon information, inside information, and of course reveal some things fairly early. But they understand that it's not officially called a Model 2 yet on Tesla's list of future vehicles. But the automaker has mentioned on several occasions that a smaller and cheaper model is coming. Now, the price of this is a, let's see, where are we here? $24,000 target. And, you know, we keep talking about the tipping point. When will an EV be less expensive than an ICE vehicle? Well, it's in that neighborhood. And once that happens, you know, mass adoption is just going to go exponential.
I mean, right now, the Bolt EUV, and the Nissan Leaf are all the best competitors in that segment. You can still get those new for under $30K, which is still a great bargain. The Bolt is one of the best deals you can possibly get right now.
And then, you know, you have to factor in cost of ownership. Once
Exactly.
you do that, it is actually less than an ICE vehicle, but most people aren't doing that level of math when they're buying the vehicle because they're looking at upfront costs.
I actually was messing around on fueleconomy.gov, and I was just curious to see, you know, if I always run the scenario in my head, if my car were to die today, what would I get? And I've been running some numbers on specifically a 2015 Model S 70 or a 70D. You can get those sub 30 grand. You can also get certain pickup trucks for under 30 grand. So I was like, hey, you know what? I'll kind of run this. So I ran a 2019 Ram 1500 turbo diesel against a 2015 Model S, and just kind of see, okay, low upfront costs with a high monthly, or vice versa. And the result was kind of hilarious because the Tesla Model S would have saved me, I think it's in a 10-year run, it'll save somewhere around $20,000.
Amazing.
Unreal.
You know, we have an internal example of exactly what you're talking about, and Richard over there was driving a gas-guzzling pickup truck. One of our Teslas came off lease, a P100D actually, and he's now driving it. What do you think?
So the truck I had before
Yeah.
was a 1993 Ford F-150. I still have it, still broken.
Still,
Still broken.
still
yeah.
a beauty.
Yeah, still broken. Has 2 gas tanks. Costs about $140 to fill both
Right.
every week. The difference from just driving out on the outset is like going from a Flintstone car to a spaceship.
Cool.
Absolutely wonderful. The cost is absolutely it's night and day.
Yeah.
I was spending money like no other just to keep the thing running, and it turns out I was just kind of putting the final nail in the coffin with it.
And I can safely say zero maintenance because Richard would bring that vehicle to our shop, and it hasn't been in there once. But I even worked on your pickup truck crawling under there fixing a starter motor about 6 months ago.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, it's like night and day. And, you know, as I tell everybody, once you drive a EV, you're never going to go back. It's, you know, it's that compelling. So in the state of Arizona, electric vehicle drivers can expect more chargers on the interstate highways in the next few years. The Arizona Department of Transportation, or ADOT as we call them here locally, got a grant from the federal government, which is part of the bipartisan infrastructure law that was signed into law in November 2021. They're getting $76.5 million in federal funding to put EV fast chargers across the interstates in the state of Arizona. So they're going to be putting a number of these on I-40, 17, I-10, I-8, and I-19. There will be, and there's a number here, I'm fishing for that. They currently have 903 public EV charging stations in the state of Arizona with more than 2,400 charging ports. And there are nearly 125,000 charging ports nationwide. Well, this is going to dramatically increase the charging ability in the state of Arizona. And I had mentioned Jim Stack's name earlier. He was actually interviewed in relation to this article. He's with the Phoenix Electric Auto Association, and he says, this is welcome news. I quote him, "I'm real big on the environment, and I just love the fact that we aren't burning oil, we aren't importing oil, and we aren't digging it up, and we aren't spilling it all over the place." Jim's been driving electric vehicles for 20 years, by the way, so this I knew this would be welcome news to him. And it'll be interesting to see how the ADOT department deploys these chargers around the state.
Well, I'm just glad that they're going along the 8. I typically drive from to and from San Diego pretty consistently, and that would be really nice to know that that's a viable option now. I mean, you can still do that in a Tesla or anything like that, but you're going to have a rough, not a rough time if you're non-Tesla, but it'll be a rough time.
Got a question on YouTube Shorts. Juan Carlos Morataya Ramos.
It's our friend from Guatemala who
Yeah.
was fixing
He
a battery.
says, is it possible to send you a battery pack from Guatemala so that you can fix it? The simple answer is no. By the time you get done with customs and shipping issues and you have to discharge the battery to a certain level, and the weight and the size of the battery, it just would not be cost effective. As you point out, it has an internal isolation fault. It could be moisture. It could be a bad internal connection. It's until it gets opened up, it's hard to pinpoint what that problem is. But the original question, is it cost effective to ship it? No. The only thing that makes sense shipping out of the country is things like a power electronics module out of a Tesla Roadster to be rebuilt. And that happens often for us. It looks like the Tesla Model 3 has become the best-selling electric vehicle in Spain.
Hey!
Yeah.
Que bueno.
The company's Model 3 is that vehicle, and it sold just one car fewer than the Fiat 500e, which held that record.
Now that's huge because they love Fiats over
They do.
there, especially in that part of Europe, in Western Europe.
I actually, that same customer that is shipping us his Roadster from Newport Beach. No, I'm sorry, it was another Roadster customer
different.
from California, yeah. He said that he replaced his Roadster with a Fiat 500e. He said it's been completely problem-free. He's enjoying the heck out of it. And he said it definitely has that small car, two-seater vibe.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's tiny and,
But what a great
MTV.
vibe to have, like in those coastal towns where everything's a little more compact. Yeah, that's a great idea.
So
I think it'd be
fourth
cool.
place in Spain was the Kia Niro with 1,500 in sales, and the Citroen E-C4, which was the fifth biggest seller with 1,418 units in Spain.
Not many Citroens over here in...
But you know what's amazing? A few years ago, there weren't any Teslas really in Europe.
True.
and,
That's
you know,
fairly new.
Yeah, but their adoption rate is just off the chart, especially the countries like Norway,
Yes.
who are completely committed to EVs and clean energy. All right.
For them.
Here's another interesting statistic, unless you want to take a question.
Well,
Go for it.
yeah, let's. So Xeon, a custom table from TikTok. Why has nobody built a car with genset for the main engine and dynamo with a gearbox for transfer power to the wheels? And they sent us a gift.
Yeah, okay.
So thank you very much, Zion Custom Table over on TikTok. Thank you so much.
Yeah, yeah. You know, there was another question that was there earlier. Why don't they just simply put alternators on the wheels on an EV to scavenge the energy?
Yep.
Again, simple law of physics. The amount of energy expended to make that thing turn and what it generates is never going to be parity or 100%. It's always going to be something less. We're going to do a video on this, by the way, because that question comes up almost every podcast. Now, a renewable energy source like solar panels is a completely different story. It's not going to rob power from the car. It's going to rob power from the sun, which is plentiful and readily available.
It's not stealing if it's free.
Yep. So anything that's coming off the car is, at least at this point, with the laws of physics that we're acquainted with, is not 100%, and you're not going to get any kind of gain. Except for fusion, by the way, which Jesse is completely committed to, where they have finally figured out, was it December 1st?
Yeah, it was last month. I mean, it was last month.
It was last month.
Early last month.
Where they were able to generate more energy than was put into something, and of course that is a major breakthrough for humanity. Ireland, YouTube Shorts, Damien McNamara, hi from Ireland.
Hello, hello.
Welcome.
Stephen Rose on YouTube wants to say the China Gigafactory has a new car coming off the line every 2 minutes.
Every 2 minutes.
Wow, okay, so the frame itself is 40 seconds, but the car in total.
Amazing.
At a rate, I guess,
Yeah.
yeah, they're being able to. 2 minutes, that's incredible. From Andre Michlaski on TikTok, how often do these batteries need to be serviced or inspected? That's a good question.
You know, virtually never. until there's some sort of a failure or an aberration. There isn't really any form of maintenance that you can do to a multi-cell battery pack in an EV. As far as preventive, you could probably inspect the cooling jackets and look at the plumbing fundamentally. Even the seals in the top lid on those battery tubs, it's very difficult to see any kind of problems because there's a flange that covers up the actual seam. So no maintenance that I'm aware of or that we can recommend. There it is, Joseph Shearer. Why not put an alternator on a car to charge when driving? Yeah, and that's the reasons, Joseph.
From J Holt 87, do you work on Mach E GT batteries? Do you work on Ford electric batteries?
We used to. We not the Ford Mach E because it wasn't out yet, but this
Right.
was when the Ford Fusion was out. We were doing a lot of hybrids, repairing batteries. Again, the problem with hybrids is if your battery ages and goes defective or has a problem, the only option from the dealership at the time was change the entire battery, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. Companies like us are able to go in and repair, so we used to do that. There will be companies like us that will specialize. I'm sure there will be a Ford, specialty shop, or maybe even a shop that handles a number of different brands. At this point, it's not us because we are so busy with just Tesla. We're not able to find any bandwidth to work on the other brands.
Mm-hmm. Actually, that reminds me of a question because I'm looking at these 2015 Model S's. What year is the Model S that you're driving, Richard?
It's a 2017.
Right, 17. Okay, so just after the refresh. But
Yep.
still, I mean, it's incredible to me that we still don't know, what the actual lifespan on those are. And they're still being sold, they're still being bought, and they're still running.
Here's a great question by McIver. He says, I'm asking why anyone would buy an electric car.
That's a great question.
Yeah, it is. Well,
We ask ourselves every day.
for those of you that like driving cars, the first answer to that is performance. I have owned a number of performance cars in my life, including a Ferrari, an ACR Viper, a bunch of muscle cars. Nothing compares to even a grocery getter Tesla Model S P100D Ludicrous or that Plaid. So that would be one reason, just sheer performance. The next one in line would be virtually no maintenance. All the cars that I owned that were ICE, that was one of the reasons I finally got rid of all of my muscle cars. These things were deteriorating while they were sitting in storage. The gaskets were drying up in the carburetors. The rubber parts were getting hard and brittle and leaking. Corrosion, in the radiator and in the cooling system. An EV does not have that level of, anywhere near that level of maintenance. The statistics you hear often is there are 2,000 moving parts in an ICE car, 18 to 20 in an EV. And then finally, you're not going to be able to drive your ICE car at some point in the future. A few decades from now, as this planet continues to unravel, you're going to be forced to go EV. So if you have any responses to that, McIver, we'd certainly like to hear them.
Okay, Pete, we're at 58 minutes.
Okay.
Ooh, time flies by,
Getting
we're
there.
having fun. Well, should we go ahead and finish off with a couple more questions here?
Sure, and I've got maybe a couple more items here. We'll see how the time goes.
So, Sonny wants to know how long it goes for until it needs service. We kind of answered that. We still don't entirely know. I mean, the battery, each Tesla battery is warranted for what, 10 years? Something like that, supposedly.
8 years. Yeah,
Oh, it's 8 years.
drivetrain.
And most of them are lasting more than 10, which is kind of beautiful to see.
The Roadster is a prime example. There are 15-year-old Roadsters that still have the original battery, still going strong. And as J.B. Strobel pointed out at one point, he said, it was a 10-year design life. We're all pleasantly surprised that they're still running, and at that time it was after 13 years.
Yeah.
Now we're on 15 years.
You pulled a great stat, I think it was in the last show, where just for context, Gruber almost exclusively, not necessarily, but there's been so much work done on the Roadsters, but the Roadsters that we have here only account for what, 3%?
3% of the world's population, yeah.
Yeah. So, the other 97% are still on the road. And we don't know what the, how much of them are still running or anything like that. But I mean, with no news is good news. It's more likely that
Look at that
They're not
TikTok
seeing it.
comment from Foreign Auto House. It sounds like a car dealer. He says, I have all types of cars. My Tesla Plaid ruined that.
Yep.
There you go.
And there's a lot of people, and I empathize with them, that there's just something tactile about having specific transmissions and manual and things like that. That's why Lexus has poured over millions of dollars into making a manual transmission for an EV, even if it's a placebo sort of a thing. I still think it's cool. Hey, good for them.
Yeah, I think it's a generational thing, though. I think that people from my generation, enjoy banging gears. We enjoy the sound of a 12-cylinder exotic car exhaust.
Oh, and it's still.
But future generations, that's all going to be very foreign to them. Like shifting. I don't know if you guys learn to drive a standard. When you're first learning that, it's kind of daunting. You've got 3 pedals to worry about, actually 4, including the brakes. Now you got to push in your clutch. You've got to do something with a shift lever either on the tree or down below here.
Yeah.
And it's not that easy to get to the point where you're proficient at driving a manual car. It's that those days are going away, and eventually, we're not even going to be given steering wheels in cars anymore. In fact, we'll be passengers in a pod.
Or headlights.
And the car will be doing all the stuff by itself, yeah.
I'm skeptical on that one, but hey, I mean, if it works, it works.
One of the ways that you could get rid of the trust factor issue, I mean, I can see where it'd be daunting to be pitch black on a road at night and you're hurtling along at whatever the speed limit is, 60, 70, 80 miles an hour. We just don't have the trust. What they would probably do is completely black out the interior and give you some other visual to concentrate on, such as watching a movie.
Sure, there you go. Yeah, distract. Don't worry about whatever's happening outside.
And then the next thing is your pod arrives and you get out and you've reached your destination.
Or it could be that we just turn all of our highways into essentially wireless trains, and every car is literally a car on the train. That's how they're all connected. Ooh, yeah. That's how they're all connected. Maybe there's something to this.
Chris Schmidt, 308, says, yeah, what happens when it's underwater? He asked this in Detroit and got no response. The original...
They're not submarines.
The original Tesla Model S's had some issues if they were submerged, and it was hit and miss. We bought a bunch of flood damage cars in 2017 during the 2 hurricanes, Texas and Florida. And we got winners and losers. Sometimes the battery packs were completely dry. Other times, they were soaked on the inside and it was ruined. And if it was salt water, forget it. The whole thing is just toast. It's corrosive and all that. The battery technology continues to improve, and they are making them more impervious to this kind of problem. Water ingress, sealing them up better. And at least in the meantime, we still have some issues, like what happened with Hurricane Ian in Florida, where there were cars that were submerged in salt water, EVs, and ignited. But things are improving, folks. Well, if we don't have any final questions, I've run out of topics here. We have...
just one last one from Multicamzilla on YouTube. Do you have a fix for the wiper issue with the early Model S's hitting the hood?
I'm unaware of that problem. Have you guys heard anything about that?
I think I've heard of it, but I think that was a service center issue.
I mean, the
you
wiper.
take it to a service center.
Yeah, the wiper assembly is basically a slotted shaft, which is adjustable. So once you pop that off, you can bring it as high or as low as you want. But it sounds like what Multicamzilla may be talking about is something more than that. Email us, ev@gruber.com. Get us more details, and we'll research it for you. We'll look it up.
Well, why don't we just end with one positive comment, and then I think we're going to be good to go. From Tesla Dave86 on Instagram. Great value, great investment, great fun.
Yeah. And for those of you that missed the picture, it's another infrared picture behind us. It's a home in Paradise Valley here in Arizona. And again, with infrared photography, you get spectacular results, often unintended, as you're taking your pictures. And then you can play with it in Photoshop and do color swapping and all kinds of fancy things. I think that's it for today. We got a wrap. We appreciate everyone joining us, TikTok here on the right and all of the other platforms. We really enjoy these podcasts and we look forward to them. We enjoy you engaging with us. We enjoy finding out where you're coming in from. And we really do appreciate our audience. For those of you that want to see any of these podcasts after the fact, you can go to our YouTube channel. Do they look under Shorts, Jesse, or under just YouTube?
You can, or you can go onto Gruber Motor Company's official channel.
Oh,
and
Gruber
if you go
Motors,
to
yeah.
the live tab, it'll be under there. We have other produced videos in our videos tab, but if you go to the live tab, that's where they're all going to be housed over there.
Yeah, and our production team now is spending lots of time putting timestamps on various topics. So if you want to rehearse or research anything that we've talked about, that would be the place to do it. Again, thank you for joining us. We will see you next week, Tuesday morning at 8:30 Mountain Standard Time.